So was Dola Sura. I am Surface, the Down Under Space Pirate, and I saw a thing that I thought, hey, I can do that easy with the Cypher System. So yeah, I am. So here I present to you, as part of the Barbaric Challenge, my Cypher Barbarian. So I'm going to make use of the Cypher System character creator tool on the Monte Games website, just to streamline this work along. But this is a pretty simple one. But to add some flavor, I'm making the genre of this post-apocalyptics, I can't talk, and fantasy, because, come on, post-apocalyptic fantasy barbarian. So, I'm going with Crowfly for the name, because the smackdown he does on his foes goes as far as the crow flies. That might actually just be a Australian phrase. Anywho, as you can see, or you can't see, um, he's a hardy, rugged warrior who shreds the walls of the world. Because that's funny. The idea here is that this barbarian, aside from being strong and durable, moves like the Flash and hits as fast as he moves. Basically, you have this wild man barbarian who speed smacks you across the battlefield. And yes, I am using the variant rule of 2 descriptors because I just do that at my table because it's fun and awesome. And if 2 people want to use the same descriptor, well, it's unlikely they'll both be using the same 2 descriptors. I also won't be using power shifts, but obviously, if you want to, go with ones that emphasize might and speed, well, at least using this build, as well as damage and defense, or evasion, because that works with the focus. So, let's start, shall we? So, I'll be using the Godforsaken and Rust and Redemption white books for this, so I'll leave it on any, because I don't need any of the others. Next, we'll skip over flavors, but absolutely combat and stealth would be some prime choices for this build. For our type, we'll be picking the warrior. For obvious reasons. The Explorer could work well too, for emphasizing the speed side of the build, if you wanted to pursue that angle of it. But for here, we'll just go with Warrior. And as you can see, just a few reasons why we're going with the Warrior. So next is our focus. Now, here there's some good choices in things like absorbs energy. Where was that? Absorbs energy and rages, which is all the way down the bottom. But I want to make this weird to emphasize a character concept and also to kind of show off what the Cypher system can kind of do with character options and such. So I'm going to go weird. So basically, shreds the walls of the world. Speed plus phasing gives you a unique ability to evade danger and simultaneously inflict damage. I think that sounds like an amazing idea for a barbarian. Which, come on. So yes, heading on to our next. So next is our descriptors. As I said, I'm going to be using 2 descriptors. So the first one I'm going to go with is hardy. As you can see, there's many different options. Obviously, you've got more traditional races like halfling and such among descriptors, as well as kind of character types or character personalities. You could say, down here you've got honorable, for example, and just plain old human. Anyway, so going with hardy. And then for our next one, we are going to be choosing rugged. Oh, rugged. You're a natural lover. You're a nature lover, accustomed to living rough, pitting your wits against the elements. Most likely, you're a skilled hunter, gatherer, or naturalist. Years of living in the wild have left their mark with a worn countenance, wild hair, or scars. Your clothing is probably much less refined than the garments worn by city dwellers. I think that very much sounds like a barbarian to me. So, yep. So we've got our two picks for descriptor. Oh my god, it's right there, and I still can't, still brain farting through this. Oh dear. All right, and next is our choice of warrior abilities. We have 4 choices. Now I am going to go with combat prowess. Basically, we get to add 1 point of damage to all of our attacks, or to our choice of attacks, melee or ranged attacks. And that's a very broad sense, so, you know. Next, we're going to go with improved edge. We gain an extra point of edge to put into a stat that has 0 edge. Next, we're going to go with practiced in armor. This is going to reduce the speed cost for wearing armor by 1. This is going to be very useful. Basically, it's going to allow us to essentially get away with wearing armor and also pulling off a lot of these speed style assaults that Shreds the Walls of the World is going to allow us. And finally, we are going to take Swipe. So it costs 1 speed point. This is a quick, agile melee attack. Your attack inflicts 1 less point of damage. However, that's countered by combat prowess than normal, but dazes your target for 1 round, during which time all tasks it performs are hindered. So basically, you stun your enemy. Yep. So that's our pick of 4. Now, let's head on to power shifts. Now, as I said, I'll pick out the ones I would actually choose rather than just kind of giving a broad statement. But if I were to go with power shifts, so we've got, I'll go back up. We've got 5 power shifts, 5 points for power shifts to assign. I would go with 1 in healing, 1 in, where are we? Resilience, and then 3 in power, because we want to emphasize as much as possible just how devastatingly we're going to be hitting. Essentially, a rage without a rage. Now, all right, so lastly, we're on to pull points and edge. We have 6 pull points and 2 edge points to assign. So how are we divvying these up? We're going to put 1 point into might, 5 points into speed. Then we're going to, so I'll explain this. This is basically so that our barbarian has ample enough points to do his strength attacks and also perform his speed attacks as well. An 8 in intelligence is pretty average. It's going to get him past any of his what would you call it? Normal kind of intelligence kind of checks to be able to perform. So 8 in intellect is really average and fine for this. And on edge, we're going to put 1 into might and 1 into speed. So our might and speed tasks or abilities now cost 1 point less. So if they only costed 1 point before, now they're basically free. You might start seeing where this starts to get strong. So Moving on to the next one. Now, what are we going to call this guy? Well, we already said we're going to call him Crowflies. Now, the equipment part here doesn't really matter, building it like this at the moment, but obviously we would put, appropriate clothing, choice of weapons. Um, it tells us what kind of weapons we get and everything. It mentions our additional gear that we get from, as it said, granted from Rugged, and any choice of armor granted from being practiced in armor. With money starting off, I think 5 money is 5 gems. I think is a pretty reasonable. It sounds like a lot, or it sounds like nothing, which both can be true for a barbarian. And what are we going to call him? Well, here's my thing. This is a post-apocalyptic fantasy, and I could only, one thing came to mind, and quite frankly, I loved it after I thought of it. So I think we're going to call his class the Sandevistan. Because at this rate, basically, this is who he is. And now we go create. Yes, create the character. And now here is our character, Crowflies. So yes, you can see he's a tier 1 character. Basically, he's all fresh started out. Has the face sprint ability. Now, notice that face sprint costs 1 plus speed point. However, our first speed point is free. So if we're just doing a basic 1 point attack with this, then we're doing it for free. Basically, yeah, it's pretty decent. As is Disrupting Touch, which also, as a might, it's basic straight up attack, instant free attack. You can do it all the time. Yeah, I think this works out pretty well as a post-apocalyptic fantasy barbarian. Your mileage may vary, or disagree, or agree, or maybe this doesn't fulfill the what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it doesn't fit your definition of barbarian, but for me, this felt like, well, a speedster Tarzan, and I think that's a pretty decent barbarian right there. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, so that's been Crowflies. And let's see how far the crow flies, shall we? Okay. So, getting back on track. This was a fun little thing, though admittedly I went way over. Shout out to YouTubers Naigobi and Odin Key and Tales from Elsewhere for accepting me into their community, and for posting this challenge for their upcoming thingy me bob. Look, I never said I was good at this, and the fact that I made it this far without a brain fart says everything. Although I just, said all that as if I just had a brain fart again. So, also, yeah, I guess I could have just gone a strong, vicious warrior who rages. That would also be like a really good barbarian. But again, I'm waffling. Look, Speedster Tarzan, total barbarian. Anyhow, hopefully this won't mess with my schedule too much. Nah. Anyway, before this goes even longer, see you, Space Dogs.